This is my unboxing and review of the Transformers Masterpiece MP-22 Cybertron City Commander Ultra Magnus. So, this is the figure that we never thought we were going to be able to see. We thought that it would be absolutely impossible to get an Ultra Magnus where he was in this whole armored suit, big, huge, because we saw how big the MP-1 Optimus Prime was. We never thought that we would be able to get that inside of this armored suit here. Now take a look at the scale here between the MP-10 Optimus Prime and Ultra Magnus. The MP-10 has been scaled down. So, Ultra Magnus comes with the Matrix of Leadership. He comes with Spike and Daniel from the year 2005. He comes with weapons and missile launchers and all that good stuff. So, let's go ahead and open him up and see what he looks like. When we open him up, here's what we get. This big clamshell case with Ultra Magnus already transformed into robot mode. He will come with 2 additional fists. These ones are in a closed position as opposed to jointed, so he can hold weapons like his gun. He has his 2 missile launchers already on his shoulders. He has an extra face plate. So this is the closed neutral mouth, and this one is an open shouting expression. And of course here we have Spike and Daniel. And of course we have our instruction booklet and card. Let's look at those. Inside we'll get some Japanese only, probably some sweepstakes thing. We have our card for our City Commander Ultra Magnus. Everything on the back is unreadable except for his stats, which we don't know what the stats are, but we can read the numbers, and they are pretty high. So you've got a 9968, 8968. So he's pretty highly ranked. We have our instruction booklet. It is not colored inside, it's black and white. But on the back, there is a history of the Ultra Magnus toys. Starting with the 1986 Ultra Magnus, then the 2000 blazing yellow whatever, all the way down to the 2013, which would be from... that is from one of the video games, War for Cybertron. And here's the man of the hour, Ultra Magnus. Alright, so we've got him out of the box. Got him out of the clamshell casing. The figure, overall, it's not as heavy as you might think, probably because practically all of this is made of plastic. The closed fists have these strange indentations on them. There are these ridges in here, which is actually so that Ultra Magnus can hold his hands above his head and look to be holding the Matrix. So those ridges are in there so he can hold the Matrix. Of course, he has his gun, which has a very straightforward transformation. Move that down, bam, it can be stored. We have his yelling faceplate, which we will show later on. And then we have our little 2 minifigures. We have both Daniel and Spike. Alright, so in the Transformers lore in 2005, the kid who was the kid in the original Transformers G1 series is all grown up, and he now has his own son, who they named Daniel. So here's Daniel. They can bend at the knees and everything, so they can sit inside Magnus's cab when he's transformed into truck mode. The missile launchers here on the shoulders do not actually fire. The missiles can just be pulled out like so. There is absolutely no firing mechanism whatsoever. No spring-loaded anything. The hands are jointed just as the Optimus Prime MP-10. You have your 3 fingers here, and then you have your pointer finger, which is jointed only at the first knuckle, closest to the hand. This is done so that he can actually hold his gun securely, like so. And actually, it is my mistake. There is no second joint at the knuckle. It merely appears as though there is a second joint. This finger is just one separate finger. There is no extra joint on it. But he can hold his gun, so pew pew. Switching out his faceplate is a rather straightforward process. You just remove the actual front of his head. Inside, you can see here, it looks sort of reminiscent to the white Optimus Prime that we saw before with the MP-2, if I'm not mistaken. And inside, here's the face. It's held on by a peg. Just carefully, gently remove it and replace it, like so. Then just put it back here, and bam, there you go. Now, he's shouting. Of special note, if you turn Ultra Magnus around to the back, this panel here will flip downwards, and there's pegs inside here which will allow you to store your faceplates on. So, you just take them and put them on there, like so, and then it's stored away. Getting the Matrix out of his chest is much like it was in the 86 animated movie. This part here, we left upwards. And then these 2 window sections will swing outwards. And what do you know? I don't see a Matrix. Which apparently he doesn't come with. I did not know that. Okay, so it looks like you'll have to buy the MP-10 Optimus Prime to get the Autobot Matrix of Leadership to put into his chest. I guess there really is just only one. Now, Ultra Magnus does have some die-cast metal toes here, so these are heavier, which is really nice because it allows him to be really balanced and centered when you have him standing on a flat surface. He won't really tip over very easily. This guy has some massive legs. Let's go ahead and talk about his articulation for a bit before we get to the transformation. The head will tilt up and down and can also spin around 360 degrees. We have ratcheting joints in the elbows, non-ratcheting joints in the shoulders, which will also move in and out due to the transformation sequence. So that's a bit more articulation. Of course, we have these missile launchers on the shoulders that will also swivel about. He does not, due to his transformation, swivel at the waist. So be careful not to try to do that, or else you'll probably end up breaking it. He will ratchet at the knees, and he also will ratchet at the hips. And the hips will move somewhat forward and somewhat back, as well as out to the side. Now, because of the way that Ultra Magnus transforms, he has this plate down here, which is actually part of the cab. So it doesn't allow the legs to move much unless you move it upward into an upward position. But then when he's standing here, he has this odd thing sticking out the back. So usually it's down. And he does have some really massive feet, but there is a bit of articulation in the ankle joints. The feet sections will actually tilt outwards, so he can have a more wide stance. Like so. Allows for some posing. You'll have to get something from to stand on to really get some dynamic poses, but, you know, he's got what he's got. Which actually, looking at how chunky this and what you would think to be clunky looking figure, he does get some pretty nice articulation. Now I know in other Masterpiece figures I've been able to get them to balance on one leg. It's not happening with this guy. You know, just get used to that fact. This guy is not an agile individual. He's meant to hold the line and dish out damage while taking a bunch of it. He's pretty much a tank. He's the team's tank. Now we get to the transformation, which, because of the way that Ultra Magnus was designed, is deceptively simple, comparatively speaking, for how large this figure is. Now, we all figured that it was going to be a white Optimus Prime inside of an armored shell that transformed into his trailer, but that's not the case. The whole thing will transform into cab, truck, and the trailer. So we're going to go ahead and speed this process up. And here it is. Ultra Magnus in his car carrier form. Okay, so there's some things to note about this figure. This shell for the cab is extremely fragile. You're going to have to be very, very careful when you're transforming these sections, because they are quite delicate. They are made of a very thin plastic, and they can like bend, snap, break if you're a little bit too rough with them. This top section here, which is supposed to actually hold all of your Masterpiece cars, is helped to be held together by Ultra Magnus's gun, which is right here. I'm not able to get this thing to slot together perfectly. I don't know why. I just can't. Now, these missiles can be displayed either on the side, or you can have them by flipping them around, pointing forward. Personally, I think they look better out here on the side, but to each his own. Now, there is nowhere to store these fists of his, really. They're just an optional add-on that I guess you would try and stick somewhere. If you flip the cab open, which you have to do from the top, you would then be able to get your little Spike and Daniel figures to sit inside. Now, if you really want to see them inside, I suggest you watch someone else's Ultra Magnus review, because I've seen someone trying to get them in there, and then I've seen them try and get them out. It is absolutely ridiculous. So, you don't need to see them inside that cab there. Another thing I would like to point out is that these side panels here are rather finicky. So they rotate downwards and upwards like so. And then they have this joint in here. And then there's a tab on this part and a slot on this part. And you're supposed to kind of just guide them together and then push that until this sort of snaps into place. Mine works on one side, and then on this other side, it refuses to stay put. I don't know what. Honestly, I don't know how many people would actually want to display Ultra Magnus in his car carrier mode, because, you know, it's a car carrier. You know, who's really going to be doing that? He is far more awesome as Ultra Magnus, the city commander. Something that I did find rather interesting is this. If you look underneath here, obviously you can see his head, but there's also this part here, which if you go ahead and push this white tab down, you can actually remove the truck portion. So, here's the car carrier mode, and here's the truck. Now, as you can very well see, again, there's Magnus's head. Here's the rest of his body. There is no Ultra Magnus white Optimus Prime figure that will have this carrier transform into power armor, which he then gets into. The white cab is an essential part of Ultra Magnus. It is not a separate piece that can become a figure on its own. These side mirrors do flip out for transformation, so there they are on the side, and then you flip them back out. You have to be careful when turning these chromed exhaust pipes outwards. They will turn around like so for transformation when it's in robot mode, and then you flip them around like that when he's in truck mode. Obviously, back here, this is the chamber where the Matrix of Leadership would be stored. Nice rubberized tires. They do spin well. And they have chromed gas tanks back here. There's this Autobot logo right here. It is actually inset. It is a separate piece that has then been clipped inside there, which is really nice. Then, of course, you have your car carrier itself. And I don't have any Masterpiece figures out here to, show the scale and to drive them up on here. You know, if you want to see that, that's someone else's review. They just usually take Sideswipe and Bumblebee and they put them up on here, or they go ahead and flip these tail sections back down here to make this ramp, and they drive them up in here. And the tires more or less stay in place. Of this part in here, Ultra Magnus's, I guess that's part of his chest plate. Inside his chest plate, there are indentations in there that can actually have tires sit in there and more or less stay put. And the same can be said for right back inside here. But you know what? Enough of this whole car carrier thing. Let's get him back into robot mode, shall we? And there we go, back to robot mode. Alright, so, like I said, the transformation is rather simple, given how large this figure is. Of course, I've been looking at the instructions the whole time. But, second time through, transforming him back, I pretty much had it down, and it usually takes me, 2 or 3 times to get it down, but this time, it's rather simple. So anyways, What do I think about this figure? Well, first, let's talk about the size. He is pretty big. I'm going to say that. It's nice to have a big figure because it shows just, how powerful, how important the character is. If you have, like, a large figure for him. They did that for, the MP-1 Optimus Prime, and it was a really big deal, but I guess they realized that as time went on, they weren't going to be able to produce figures in that scale if they wanted to actually make them in scale. So they had to go ahead and release the MP-10, which I will be getting and reviewing later on. He is currently being shipped to my house as we speak. So they had to make an Optimus Prime that's pretty much about half the size of Ultra Magnus, as you were able to see in the pictures earlier. I'm going to assume that the MP-10 is about the same size as the Faith Leader figure that I reviewed several years ago. So he's going to come up to about here on Magnus. This is a very large figure. Like I said, nice, chunky. I wouldn't say clunky, but he definitely speaks of power just by standing here. I really wouldn't have the open mouth face if I were to be displaying him, unless I was doing it in some sort of a battle diorama. I just like this stern, blank, no-nonsense look on his face. And I can tell that these antennae on his head are also die-cast metal, just by how cold they are and how stiff they are. It's nice that they went ahead and did that so they wouldn't just snap off and break at the slightest provocation. He does take up a lot of shelf space. This guy's gonna demand a lot of shelf real estate, so if you happen to have the space, fantastic. If you don't, I mean, well, it's Ultra Magnus. I guess you'll make the space. But, other than that, the price point, Ultra Magnus retails for roughly about $150 to $180 US right now. I don't know if he's currently being produced or not. Once a figure ceases production and it goes dormant for several years, the price, of course, skyrockets on the secondary market. I managed to get this guy from HobbyLink Japan while they were having, I guess, their spring cleaning sale, or their, you got your tax return money, now go spend it kind of sale. So that's how I went ahead and got Ultra Magnus. So ultimately, with shipping from overseas in Japan, I got him for about $141. So he cost me $120 plus a bit of shipping, which is not bad considering how large this figure is and how somewhat heavy the box is. But others who are gonna have to pay a higher price for him, is he gonna be worth it to you? Well, you're gonna have to ask yourself, is Ultra Magnus an important part of your collection? Was he important to your childhood? I mean, honestly, I'm very sure that I saw the movie when it was in theaters. I was rather young then, 1986. I would have been 3 years old during the summer of '86. So I remember when the film was actually in theaters because I went to the grocery store and they had, those display stands by the cash registers. And there was like a sticker book for the Transformers movie, and you could buy packs of stickers, and I begged my dad for it. He bought it for me along with like one pack of stickers, and you open it up, and basically the stickers are just random panels in there which tell out the entire story of the film. And so you would just peel the sticker off the backing and you would put it on the appropriate part in the book, and it would be in full color then. If not, it was basically in black and red, and there was this plastic red film thingy that you would put over it to, I guess, decode the image. Of course, that thing got damaged or lost rather easily, so I would just take a clear red Lego piece that was, rather large and just hold it up to my eye and look through it so I could see, you know, the entire page all at once. So I knew of the story when it came out. I doubt I saw it in theaters because I was probably too young. But, you know, then I would see, you know, the Transformers TV show when it was on the air. Most likely, a lot of it I saw it during reruns. So I know that I saw Ultra Magnus, since he was available in Season 3. I never had the toy. I never had the Ultra Magnus toy. I did have the Magnus toy, which was basically just the white Optimus Prime that, you know, I guess my mom picked up from a yard sale, and of course he was missing those hands that those figures are always missing. But I never had Ultra Magnus. And honestly, he was never depicted in the show as just Magnus, where it was a white Optimus Prime. It was always Ultra Magnus. He was always in this large battle armor. It was in the Dreamwave comic by, I think the guy's name was... Oh, honestly, I can't remember the guy who owned Dreamwave. He has a very bad reputation, and Dreamwave Comics is now kaput. But during the time when Dreamwave Comics actually had the license to do Transformers, what he did in there was really interesting. He had Optimus Prime, I think it was Optimus Prime, trapped aboard either an underground facility where there was all these Decepticons, or he was on some battleship, and Ultra Magnus was battling through this all the endless hordes of Decepticons to get to him. And as the battle went on, his armor kept getting shot to pieces, and pieces of it were getting blown off, until right at the very end, when he got to the very core, when he found Optimus Prime, he threw off the last armor piece, and it was the white Optimus Prime underneath. You know, that was not Ultra Magnus, that was Magnus. And apparently, in the lore that they created for the Dreamwave timeline, Ultra Magnus was very self-conscious about how relatively weak he was compared to other Autobots, or at least he thought so. And so, in secret, you know, he fashioned this armor that he would then put onto himself, and it became part of his trailer. And he didn't want anyone to know that he was actually pretty much a white lookalike of Optimus Prime underneath. Just a white lookalike that wasn't as powerful. So everyone thought that he was this big, badass dude, when really he was just this really insecure guy who, you know, through courage was able to overcome his fears and, you know, do all this stuff in battle. But then, you know, like I said, Dreamwave went kaput. The license was granted to IDW, and they've done a really good job since. So as I said, large, heavy, lots of retail space on the shelf, and retails for about somewhere between $150 to $180 currently. If you are interested, I suggest you get this while it is available widely, because if not, you're going to have to go into the secondary market, and the prices are just going to go up, up, up. Anyhow, this has been my review of the MP-22 Cybertron City Commander Ultra Magnus figure. Check back again for future videos, and I am signing out.